Hi kids, it's Just Be the Clown. Just Be the Clown and comedy consultant, justbetheclown.com. Also known as Justin Wright, Justin B. Wright, Justin Barnabas Wright, the creator of Dance O Dance, which was a live, free, all ages, public access, hour-long program of dance from July 1997 to December 2021. I've been doing these videos to express gratitude to the people and the situations that made it all possible, and looking for some inspiration for the next big thing. It came to my attention that on my channel there are some videos that are more popular than others, and some of them by a long shot. So the Butoh videos, Butoh postmodern Japanese dance form, is featured on my channel in a couple of videos and was a huge influence on my life and on Dance O Dance and the creation of Just Be the Clown. So I want to lead you up to the point where I first experienced Butoh, and then in the following episodes talk about what it is and all the influences, and in way more detail. So consider today a little bit of a segue. We need to cover some other contextual ground. I do want to start with this because when I was in art school, Evergreen, we knew that the difference between the film students and the video students was scripts and storyboards. Film students had scripts and storyboards, and video students had press record and fix it in post. And so we love to accumulate footage and then spend all-nighters in the editing suites. I don't want to do that. I never wanted to do a talk show, and I wanted Dance O Dance to be live all in one take. And so here I am, and I have a script because I want to be concerned about the audience and take you into consideration that I don't go on too long. Let's stick with the script somewhat here. So I'm going to be mentioning some videos that you can find on my channel, and some that you can find in a box in a storage unit hundreds of miles away back in Olympia. And I believe that it's worth retrieving some of those, digitizing them, uploading them for public archival purposes, because the Butoh videos got lots of hits. And that's evidence there of a dance form and a troupe that was highly influential and affected a lot of people. So I mean, Kagami Butoh, led by the late Doranne Crable. I have a lot of those videos somewhere, and I'll talk about that more in length. But I want to go over my history from the decade prior to discovering Butoh, just for some context purposes, I guess. My childhood identity was more of a comedic performer, not a dancer per se. The first school dances I went to, held in the middle school gym or in the high school gym, I discovered that I was a traveler. I would enjoy skipping toward an empty space. The social aspect of partner dancing was not my strength, and I have yet to master that, and it's a source of humility. Always wanted that connection. Very inspired by figure skating and swing dancing and weight transfer and contact improv and all that. But in high school, I started dancing in secret. I would dance at my first job where I was the evening custodian at my stepfather's dental office. So I would clean up the spit and then empty the bloody gauze garbage and vacuum up the stray dental floss, and then I would put on my Walkman and I would do aerobics in front of a mirror by a dental chair. Like I knew that you get your heart rate up, breathe fast, heavy, move your arms and legs, march in place, go side to side, 80s style dance, as it were, and that was good enough. That was exhilarating and would lead to a good night's sleep. There were movies, of course, inspired 80s movies about dance as a private, solitary passion, Footloose, Flash Dance, and there were always very important dance scenes in movies where the main characters would have a dramatic event transpire because it was the school dance or dance was involved in that. I loved the musical Hair, choreography by Twyla Tharp and Gene Kelly and Xanadu. Uh, I was in the Thespians. I lettered in drama, in theater, and I was only in one musical, and there was very little dancing for me to do. I was in Guys and Dolls as Harry the Horse. Now, I was also on the school paper, and I very publicly mocked the school dance team, the Debs, and I regret this a lot. I did not know how to enjoy the mass conformity, the saccharine, sweet, and highly choreographed routines. I wish I had made more of an effort to understand the vocabulary, the hard work, the emotional investment and significance to the dancers themselves. I could understand how, in a play, the cast could form an ensemble, um, but I never followed, was into competitive sports, and I didn't grok the Debs as a dance team. Um, and going forward, the idea that dance would be judged is a hard swallow of you want to participate, but you don't want to be judged. It's nice to win things. It's not so great to lose. Um, anyway, the Debs. It was a missed connection for promoting a more or less harmless, healthy extracurricular activity. Yeah. Um, so at 18, I didn't have a clue that I would be spending so much time and energy and blood and sweat and tears on making dance happen for a wider audience. I knew dance was tap and ballet and modern and ballroom and kind of a ethnic cultural, and also then this sort of flirty and vapid and superficial cheerleader slash Vegas showgirl kind of fractally repetitious spectacle. There's dance there. Now, at my first college, Willamette University, I didn't take any performance classes, and I liked sociology. I wanted to be the researcher that was playing weird pranks, right, and recording the results. And I think that is sort of the methodology of Dance O Dance and Just Be Success a little bit there. You have an absurd principle and Confederates and natural, and then all of a sudden there's 100 people that are dancing on live TV because they can, because everyone else was doing it, and you have all these people lined up waiting to take a pie in the face. Sociology, thank you. So those were a long way off. Uh, I dropped out, went on a big vision quest, went to Halifax, Nova Scotia, danced a little bit along the way. I wound up back home. It wasn't a core identity. I enrolled at Portland State University, and I got some performance and movement classes, Tai Chi and theater, in among more academic things, women's studies, peace studies, existentialism. But I also took Afro-Cuban dance, and that is based on the Santeria religion, and the steps are to invoke the orishas, the gods. The premise is that under the right circumstances, the dancer goes into a trance, is possessed, and becomes the danced. I was drawn to this. I was drawn to Elegua, specifically Papa Legba, who's a gatekeeper and a trickster. And I had some experience with trance by this point. Certainly, dance induced euphoria, but I had never had like a methodology to cultivate a receptivity to divine intervention. It was a new thing for me, and I didn't make any social connections. I didn't make any friends or any lovers in class, and ultimately dropped out of PSU, went on some more vision quests, went to Baja on on a trip that took me to Olympia, and I wound up going to Fiji, and it wound up taking me back to Ann Arbor, and I lived there for like 3 years with Granny, and dance was simmering below the surface for sure. I wound up volunteering at the Performance Network. I did some acting, but I did some light and sound tech for the University of Michigan a dance department, faculty and staff, students, and I loved that. My appetite was whetted. It looked fun. It looked difficult. It looked doable, but it was out of reach, really. And I concentrated on photography and collages, absurdist cut-up poetry, and I read at open mics. And I met and dated a dancer, someone who had graduated with a dance degree, and dance got a little bit closer. I also met Matt Camp. He was a fellow poet, and yeah, unfortunately, I had been feeling stuck. And I applied and was accepted to Evergreen, and so I was determined to go stick it out, get some kind of degree, and I left. And I didn't start with performance right away. I took a classical voice class, but I took printmaking and photography and theater lighting and marketing the arts and things like that. And I remember Matt Camp coming out, thinking he would enroll, and ultimately deciding against it. One of his last big projects was putting on a show at Studio 321 with Old Time Religion, Sandman, and Agnes and Hattie's East Side Witches Review, which I did a little invocation thing with a dozen eggs that I'd blown out, emptied, and filled with various things. Yeah, the purpose and intention of that was a little bit vague, but it was about fresh starts and opening up things, trying to channel a little bit of a Papa Legba, I guess. But in around this time, I had a recognition of my own mortality, I guess. I thought to myself, you can take pictures and write and do certain things later, but your body won't be able to dance indefinitely. So now would be a good time to really focus, shift your attention that direction as fast and as much as you can. Like it was well past when I should have started, but maybe not too late with some focus and concentrated effort. And so I made it my mission to go to dance classes, workshops, performances, and incorporate reading of biographies, autobiographies, books about dance, theory, and so on. And as I mentioned with Infectious Waste Theater, that was a shift that over time became, overwhelmingly 100% like dance, more or less. Now I got Matt to drive me to some shows, and I want to say that we went as far as Corvallis from Olympia to see the Alvin Ailey dance troupe. It seems to be a long way for a thing that where I was focused on just going to see them, and stick around for the question and answer and try to absorb some professional dancer energy. Now I know for sure that I paid for us both to go see Baryshnikov in Detroit, and I know that was a long drive. 49 hours we drove. It was a spring break of about 94. He'd given up on Olympia, and I was like, I'm gonna go see my family, and Baryshnikov will be in Detroit, so let's go to that. And he drove most of the way. I did not have a license, and he didn't like the way that I bobbed between the lines, I guess. I also went to the Ann Arbor Hash Bash that year, which was on April 1st, and I dressed in pastels with bunny ears and had Matt videotape me at a drum circle going into trance, I guess. Hoping something would happen. I also made it a point to interview some of my relatives, my Dutch Indonesian relatives, to talk about their time in Indonesia. And I recall my Opa saying off camera something to the effect of, if you want to dance and celebrate and go to parties, if you want to spend your life dancing, celebrating, going to parties. Yeah, and so there was an unspoken, unfinished implication that that's impractical and ridiculous. But yeah, I sort of took it to also mean you need to have a community that can support that. Your culture needs to be have an infrastructure like a traditional Indonesian society. Now, for most Americans, a dancer is not a real job. It's like sex work, right? And at the time, neither Opa or myself would have really considered birthday party clown to be where I would end up, let alone making a dance type thing. So I got on a Greyhound and I went back to Olympia, and I went back to Evergreen, and I enrolled in modern dance with Karen Kirsch, and it got me in my body. It got me more vocabulary. It got me a new sense of myself in space. We did a lot of floor work in the Big X. It wasn't especially performance oriented, and I didn't make any intimate connections, friends and lovers. There wasn't an emphasis on partnership, so which in a way was great because I suck at it in a dance mode. I tried traditional Orisi Indian dance with Ratna Roy, and I was overwhelmed with the precision required. There's like a dozen different finger positions or something, and the stamping of the feet to a numbered rhythm, and I couldn't get it without visible look of concentration when my eyes were supposed to be on a different rhythm doing a different thing. I was lucky. Evergreen also offered a way to connect with my Indonesian roots, my heritage. I took classes with Sean Williams in the Indonesian language and in the gamelan, which is the gong and metallophone orchestra ensemble. And with Laurie Meeker, I took Pukulan, which is Indonesian American martial arts with roots in Pencak Silat. And thanks to those things, I was able to go to the island of Java for 5 weeks after graduation, and that's another story. So I'm going to conclude this episode on the cliffhanger, which was shortly after that spring break, on April 20th to be exact, in Red Square. I had my first experience observing a Butoh dance, and that hour or so changed my life. And I saw a new potential to approach dance in a different way. I know that a video of this exists because I edited it. I happened to have a camera, or I knew it was happening, and I got a camera, and I happened to see someone else videotaping it, and I sought them out, and I knew I wanted to incorporate their perspective on it as well. So I spent a long time in the editing suite watching it over and over again. And I want to tell you what that was like, but not today. I have a sense that it was unexpected for other members of the audience as well. And so for today's purposes, I just say that I had found a path that I went on full of curiosity and vulnerability, and neither I nor Olympia would ever be the same again. On my channel, there are Butoh videos in the top 10 most viewed, including some shot in the TV studio at Evergreen. But the most popular by far, 33,000 views, is three of us, Nathan Woods, Arrington Dioniso, and myself, on the roof of the library building for an hour on Mother's Day of 1998, 4 years after my first exposure. So at this point, I had already evolved into this proto Just Be the Clown character, not doing by any means a pure form of it. At one point, Arrington dances right off the roof into a fir tree, so it's worth checking out. It's quite a spectacle. I'll be right back to describe what I saw on that first performance and how the phenomena grew. Thanks so much. Like and subscribe.